Welcome once again to Easy Elite English, free online lessons for stress-free learning. Today our topic is the difference between bar graph and histogram. Bar graph and histogram both are somewhat similar looking, and we are discussing the difference between bar graph and histogram because this is a dilemma of confusion among many students. So all the confusion will be cleared in just a few seconds. The difference between bar graph and histogram for class 9 CBSE. Now first we should note that a bar graph can be horizontal or vertical. On the left side we have a horizontal bar graph, and on the right side we have a vertical bar graph. This is a horizontal bar graph. The rectangles are proceeding horizontally, and this is a vertical bar graph. The rectangle, the height is vertical. In CBSE class 9 syllabus we have vertical bar graph. All the horizontal bar graph may be taught in lower classes like class 7 or 6, but in class 9 we have vertical bar graph. And vertical bar graph is also called column graph. Another name for vertical bar graph is column graph. So here we are assuming that bar graph means vertical bar graph because that's what you have in class 9 CBSE. Now first of all, look at the two figures. On the left side we have bar graph, and on the right side we have histogram, right? This is bar graph and this is histogram. Let us look at the similarities. Frequency is along y-axis. Frequency, number of students, a number of stores. In both the cases, the frequency. Here we are having number of students. There is a frequency. How many students play cricket, how many students play football, number of students being the frequency. And here we have number of stores, 2, 4, 6, 8, these are number of stores. So in both the cases, frequency is along y-axis. Second, rectangles are of uniform width. See the rectangle. All the rectangles are of uniform width. We don't have one big and one small rectangle. The heights may be different. The heights of the rectangles are different, but we do not have rectangles of different width. We have all the rectangles of uniform width. We are looking at the width. Look at the width of the rectangles. We are having uniform width. See this width. Width of this rectangle, width of this rectangle, same. Width of this rectangle. The heights are different. This is taller, this is shorter depending on the frequency, but the width is same. Here also see the width of the rectangle, this width, this width, this width, this width. The widths are uniform. The height may be different. The height, some are shorter, some are taller depending on the frequency, but the width of the rectangles are uniform in both the cases. Heights of rectangles proportional to frequencies. The heights of rectangles will be proportional to frequencies. So more frequency means you will get a taller rectangle, and lower frequency means you will get a shorter rectangle. So these are the three similarities we have. Frequency is along y-axis, rectangles uniform width, and heights of rectangle proportional to frequencies. Here you have tall rectangle y, frequency is more. Here we have a very short rectangle y, frequency is low. Similarly, here also a short height rectangle, less frequency. A tall rectangle, that means higher frequency. So height of rectangles are proportional to frequencies, but the width will be uniform and frequency always along the y-axis in both the cases. Now let us look at the differences. When we come to differences, we have given it in a columnar form, the difference between the two. So bar graph, you can say gap between rectangles. Gap between rectangles, you have the gap between rectangles. And when you come to histogram, no gap between rectangles. Gap between rectangles, see the gap. One rectangle ends here, this is the gap. Again, this is the gap. Again, this is the gap. Here you do not have any gap. Here no gap. X-axis are heads or items. In x-axis are heads. Cricket, football, basketball, tennis. These are items. But here, x-axis, in case of histograms, they are numerical values as ranges. They are ranges. Actually, this rectangle represents 700 to 750. This represents 750 to 800. This is 800 to 850. 850 to 900. They are numerical range of values. A kink may be present in case of histogram, but no kink in bar graph. Here we do not have a kink, but here we have, this is called a kink. Why? Because this is starting with 700 and not with 0. It is starting at 700, it's not starting at 0. So here we have a kink. This kink is there. So gap between rectangles we have in bar graph, but no gap between rectangles. And histograms, x-axis or heads of items, cricket, football, basketball, or population in different years like 1980, 1985, 1990. But here x-axis will be numerical values as ranges. 700 to 750, 750 to 800, 800 to 850. In bar graph, no kink, and here a kink may be necessary. The kink is necessary if it is not starting with 0. If it is starting with 0, then we don't need the kink. But if it is not starting with 0, then we need the kink. Now last, a bar graph cannot be modified to get a frequency polygon. May be modified to get a frequency polygon. Here, by joining the midpoints, there is a midpoint, there is a midpoint, these are the midpoints, see, these are the midpoints. And by joining the midpoints, you are getting a frequency polygon. Here we have taken the 0, we have taken the one extra range on the left and one extra range on the right and the midpoint. So when we join the midpoints, we get a frequency polygon. We get a frequency polygon. Here if you join the midpoint, it will be a nonsense, you won't get anything. Here there's no question of any joining the midpoints in case of this. If I say join the midpoints like this will be a meaningless thing. This will not be a frequency polygon. This will be wrong. So joining the midpoints to get a frequency polygon is possible in histogram, but not in bar graph. So that was Easy Elite English. WhatsApp us or email us for any specific tutorials on any topic. For all our services are entirely free of charge. We will be back again with more videos. Till then, thank you and goodbye.